A lot of music theory is built upon frameworks of what people call like natural rhythms or natural harmonies. I think these are very pretentious terms. I don't like to use them. A lot of instruments are tuned to basically sequences of notes that a lot of people find pleasing. But when you're talking about what people find pleasing to the ear, that's really different for everybody. So when you study music theory, you're really studying the most dominant understandings of music. And just like learning anything, you have to learn from people and their relative understandings of things. So I find it's helpful to study a wide variety of viewpoints, make your own judgments, and develop your own unique understanding of things that's informed by a lot of others. I believe that music emulates nature, and that lessons you learn in music theory can be applied to the natural world and vice versa. So the example I want to start with is the swirl, or the spiral. This shirt was made by Immortal for their album X Marks the Swirl, and I wanted to give them a shout out just because I love that album, and because I think it's really cool that they focus people's attention on this shape. Scales in music are basically sequences of notes ordered by pitch or frequency that a lot of people think sound good. And there are many different scales from all over the world. I first learned to visualize scales by playing the piano. I don't actually own a piano, so today I'm going to use a glockenspiel, which uses the same sequence of notes. When I play an ascending scale that moves from a low note up to a high note, I see my hands moving along the keys from left to right. And on a keyboard, the same pattern of notes repeats itself. So you can start at a C and work your way up until you get to another C, this time an octave higher. Every time you reach another C, you've gone up one octave. So on the piano, it's a straight line from left to right. But now, when I imagine these notes, I see it very differently. Because you start at C, you climb up, and you reach another C, but you're above where you started. It's like a spiral staircase. Every time you climb up one octave, you get back to the same point, but you've leveled up. This is why I now visualize scales as spirals. And the spiral has become a very special pattern to me. If you look for it in nature, it starts to appear everywhere. The shape of a snail's shell is a similar spiral. A hurricane forms into a spiral. The shape of the Milky Way galaxy is a spiral. And the human DNA double helix is also a spiral. It has been demonstrated in mathematics, and before that it appeared in the Sanskrit art of prosody, which are rhythm structures that are said to abide by the sacred laws of nature. By the way, I'm going to include a link down below to a YouTube video that demonstrates the relationship between conical rhythms and the Fibonacci sequence. This spiral formation also appears in the cochlea of our inner ear, and when I found that out, my head basically exploded. So that's what I want to talk about next. Even though there are many diagrams and visualizations of the inner ear online, it's still difficult to fully imagine. What helps me is to imagine a cave, an underwater cavern, because the cochlea is bathed in a hyperconductive fluid. Only the cave is shaped like a spiral snail shell, and all along the edges of the cave walls are these little structures almost like seaweed called stereocilia, and they're moving according to the movements of the water. So imagine that the pulses in the water are sound vibrations, and the stereocilia are moving in response to these pulses. Their physical movements are converted into electrical signals, and those signals travel to the brain where they are processed and understood as sound. Similarly to the last video, remember how guitar strings vibrating are interrupting the circuit of the magnetic field that's generated by the pickups? And those interruptions are converted into electrical signals by electromagnetic transduction. So here, the movement of sound waves pulsing through the inner ear are converted into electrical signals by electromechanical transduction. So the vibrations from your instrument are physical sound waves, and those are converted into electrical signals which travel through your cable to your amp, which amplifies them and transforms them back into physical sound waves. Those sound waves reach your ear, and your ear converts them into electrical signals which travel to your brain.